Alright guys, I thought I'd do a quick Christmas video. Just come up and having me coffee. Sort of chilling out. I don't know if you can see the lake over there. Lake's got a load of waves on it, which is a bit unusual, but looks nice. And over this side it's as calm as anything. Yeah, so what's to discuss? Well, for me, the start of the year was a bit of a difficult one because obviously I had the spinal issue where I had my 3 discs stacked together. But I have to say, Spanish healthcare is really good here. So I've got no grumblings on that. It sorted itself out. All the other issues during the start of the year pretty much wiped out now. So it's just sort of enjoying Spain. Somebody did mention my eyes look a bit dark. There's a reason they're dark, is to get home for Christmas. I worked last weekend and up to 10 o'clock a few nights last week to get the work done. It was end of year, so all the accounts had to go through and some of the stuff hadn't been done in months. So it was a case of spending a lot of hours going through a lot of paperwork to get it over the line so we can get paid. So that's why. It's not some conspiracy theorist nonsense. It's simply called hard work. So don't read too much into it. Same with the Brexit stuff. Brexit doesn't bother me. I've said this before. What happens is people ask me questions about it, and this is why I end up making a video about it. It doesn't bother me. I lived in Europe before the EU set up as it is today. When we used to drive across the borders between France, Germany, UK, etc., and show your passport, didn't bother me in the slightest. And the freedom of movement stuff is an issue for a lot of people today, but ultimately I just think there'll just be extra paperwork. Because let's face it, there's always administration paperwork anyway, because if you're a resident of another country, you've got to file for residency in the first place, and there's criteria for that residency. So no, it doesn't bother me. The other point I do want to make out is just be very careful, because the focus is on one thing, like the old Blair days. While they're focused on something that's gone wrong, for example an attack, they then slip through thousands of laws on the quiet, and that's what I was talking about. But does it really bother me? No. My focus here is to get to being able to get the properties I want here and set up here permanently, which we're nearly there. The first property I expect we'll be buying probably in February. I've already got the deposit for it. I've already arranged the mortgage with the bank, and we're just looking for the right property at the minute. That is where I expect to be. I've got a 5-year plan on properties, and that's what I'm working on. So there is very little downside on my side. My life's pretty chilled. But I do understand the frustrations that other people are suffering with. There's a lot of retired people here worried about their pension funds. Sorry, not their pensions, their healthcare. Because when they moved over here, it was agreed that they would have free healthcare because they'd already paid into the UK system, and there was a bilateral agreement, so that they could be entertained in the Spanish system. No extra cost because they'd already paid it into the UK tax system. But that was all part of the EU, but I don't see that changing. The simple reason is the UK contributes to the Spanish healthcare system, and as far as I'm aware, their contributions are actually higher than the usage of the people here. So it benefits the Spanish economy and also benefits the UK system, in the sense that the UK is in a very poor state when it comes to the NHS. And it's not because I have some political agenda against this socialist NHS system. It's more a case of it's just not functioning. Simple as that. And it's not my personal view, it's quite simply I've seen, well, let's put it, the majority of people I've spoken to or mentioned things to me have all had major issues relating to health in the UK, myself and private. Doesn't bother me. I would love to not pay into the NHS anything, but doesn't bother me because I've got myself out of it. I've moved away from it. This is where my life is. in the sun. Now, I do expect I'll be in the UK for about 5 years on and off, hopping in and out of the UK. But there is a bigger goal to that, and that's paying for the properties. Could I afford to live in Spain full time? Yes, I've already done it before. I've spent over a year here in one go. And it's funny how some people form opinions based on one video without any of the information that relates to it. It's a bit like Carlos. Carlos earns a good income here. He's like me, he can make money online. Another reason you get lines under your eyes, because you work nights a lot. But ultimately, life's pretty good. There's no negative side, and for me the Christmas is looking pretty good. There will be some other bits and pieces following up on the Spanish channel. Not going into it too much, but there'll be a few more Christmas videos on that side. But on this video, at the moment, one of the things I would say is if you do want to move to Spain, just make it happen. I look at some of the properties here, the one we were viewing earlier. On the last video, I was walking around in it on the last video, and there's an actual rental video for it on the Spanish channel. You buy those properties for around 50,000 here. In the UK, you don't get much for 50,000. But things like your council tax, which is another thing that's rather expensive in the UK. Here, you're paying about 200 a year, not nearly around that a month. So from a pensioner's point of view, there is a lot of benefits if they can keep the healthcare going. There's a lot of reasons to actually move out here. So yeah, for me, it's a good life for the family. Kids have got a great school. This area ain't going to change much. I mean, it hasn't really changed much since probably the 80s. So it's an area that's not going to get overdeveloped, because it can't. Because over this side you've got sand dunes. In the middle over there, sand dunes, and over there, a lake. All three are protected. So there is no more developments going on here. It's not suddenly become a bustling city or something. It's landlocked in that sense. So for me, that suits me. It's a tourist destination, and you just come here to chill. It's a nice place to live. Internet's fast, and get 100 meg here, no problem. Cost of living's relatively cheap. Plenty of fresh food, plenty of fresh fruit, plenty of fresh seafood, plenty of good collection of meat products as well. Huge collection of meat products as well. And for those that drink, ridiculous amount of wine. I mean, we've got a bodega near here, literally the next street. But also La Mata itself produces wine from the lake, which is quite unique in the sense of it's on sand, and that's predominantly being sold to the US market from between $30 to $60 a bottle, because it's got the perfect environment. Because one thing we do have here is 2 salt lakes as well. Now the reason that's important is the salt is heated by the sun on a daily basis. The lakes are kept warm, which creates an ecoclimate. So it can be cold and snowing north and south of us here, but we don't really get the same drops in temperature, etc., because the lakes are artificially heated. Sorry, not artificially, naturally heated by the sun. So the temperature is always kept higher than other areas around us, which means that for the wine growing, it's a perfect location. The sand and the salt also deal with any of the bugs that affect winemaking, which means that it's very unique in that sense and perfect for wine. So yeah, La Mata wine is pretty good. I haven't tasted it, but I mean, in the sense of the read-ups and things I've done on it, so not done, read, it's all positive stuff, but I haven't actually tasted the local wine. So can't comment on its flavour, but it does have some decent wine. Well, you were selling it for $30 a bottle and getting away with it. Can't be that bad. But what's the negative aspects of being here? Nothing. Hard bit is when I go back to work, because I go back from this to a big overcast and just focused on making the money. But ultimately, when you come out of it, you've got this to look forward to. So you appreciate it. As soon as I get off that plane at Alicante Airport, you get that sun hit you, and you just thought, I'm home. And you're back into, well, is it holiday mode? I couldn't say it's holiday mode because we still do the property rentals, and the last trip over I did a load of renovations on a property that we're now managing. So yeah, I suppose not really. It's not holiday mode, but just a better environment. It's less rushed. Nothing is urgent here, and people's attitudes and stuff are more laid back and things. So it's just nice. My Spanish language is still ongoing. I do recommend trying to do at least 15 minutes a day if you are learning Spanish. Some people will say an hour, some people, you know what, the most important bit is you're doing it daily. It doesn't matter how much, just some of it every day. If you're coming over to move over here and you've got a run up of a year, I would say try and increase it on a daily basis. But as long as you're doing some every day, it's not too bad. One of the things I do is I watch a lot of Spanish movies and TV shows on my spare time, and I mix them, whether it's got subtitles in English or subtitles in Spanish with an English show, or just all in Spanish. You just mash them all together because you're absorbing it all the time, even though sometimes you don't realise it, but later on somebody might say something, you recognise it because it was something that kept coming up in a TV show, and you just automatically do it because it's been absorbed from your short-term memory into your long-term memory, and that's what you're aiming for. The more you got in the long-term memory, the better. But yeah, all's good. I would actually do a walk along the beach today, but as soon as I get past the buildings here, you normally get a little bit of wind come up, and with this phone, it's a BenQ, my mic doesn't work. I've got to sort that out, but I'm thinking of getting the AOE P30 Pro, because that'll be good for the night photos as well, the night videos. So I'm sort of looking at the moment. I'll have to check up on the mic aspect of it. But yeah, looking forward to a new year. Enjoying this one. So everyone have a great Christmas, and may do a video over the new year, depends how busy I am, but all's good. And I suppose my next big update is when we purchase the first property, because then I'll be able to give more detail on the hassles of dealing with it, in the sense of the paperwork that's involved, looking at the insurance policies and other bits and pieces that sort of get tagged on, and what you legally have to do and what you're often told to do, which often differ. Anyway, thanks for watching.